Hello and welcome to the 100 Podcast. I'm Dan, your mountain man, and today I'm reacting to Season 5, Episode 8, How We Get to Peace. And as you can see, I'm not wearing glasses this week because I bought a ring light and then there were little circles in my glasses and I said, fuck, I don't know how to deal with that. So had to get this episode up tonight. Just watched the episode of the 100, so here we go. No glasses, I can't see nothing. But I can see this episode. It was a really interesting one. It's one of those episodes where in some ways it's nice to have a little week-long break in between episodes because you could digest the episode a little bit more. It's interesting how the show, so many seasons in, so many episodes in, it still plays with morality in ways that challenges me as a viewer. That you feel like they've done every scenario a million times, but it's interesting how the show talks about morality in a way where it's what you can logically talk about, and you can say, oh, this decision that someone made here is similar to when they made this decision here. But then you also look at it, I guess in a more of a heart way, which is like, oh, but I care about this character, so I'm more okay with it. And so it's interesting how you can look at the show and what it's talking about on a philosophical level, but it's also interesting to engage with it on a television, TV level. And the reason I'm talking about that is Clark and Bellamy killing Cooper. It's objectively a really messed up thing to do. But as a viewer, it's kind of easy for me to have my television morality and say, they're my favorite characters. They had their reasons, and hey, I hated Cooper, so I'm not going to focus on this very long. Whereas then I have things where, Abby is shocking Raven. Raven, a character I love. Abby, a character I've had some issues with. And I'm like, fuck you, Abby. I will never give you... This is beyond the pale. You can't possibly be ever redeemed. I'm so fucking mad at you. You must go. And yeah, it is interesting introspectively to look at those things and to be able to be like, I can logically piece out certain aspects of it and say, well, to a certain degree, I do feel like what Abby did was more morally wrong because it seems like she really did just do it to get her next fix, and she was screwing over someone she supposedly cared about and who treated her like a mother. And whereas Clark and Bellamy really thought that what they were doing was to end war. So, I mean, you can logic it out, but it's also ultimately they murdered someone. And so it's interesting to look at this episode and to look at how a lot of characters went down some dark paths. We have, Echo talking about killing Shaw. I know she didn't do it, but it's like we have a lot of people doing very messed up things. And of course, it all culminates in Bellamy poisoning Octavia in order to save Clark, and Octavia was gonna assassinate Clark and execute Clark. And so it's like everybody's really at the height of their fucking uppitude, and we have Diyoza who's gonna let McCreary die. And it's just interesting to see how everybody's at their breaking point, and who do you agree with, who do you not agree with? It's all a matter of perspective, which is what the show has always been about, because, it's about the idea that there aren't any good guys, just people making shitty decisions. Amidst all this, we have Monty and Harper, who are the two little angels who must just want to go little farming and that they're algae. And then, of course, Bellamy goes and, weaponizes the algae, because, of course. I don't know. I'm rambling a little bit more than I usually do, I feel like, on these videos, but it's more about how this episode made me feel than necessarily the specific plot points. And I'm gonna obviously get into more of the specifics in the audio podcast that I do every week with Olga, but I just wanted to sort of sit with this one because it was so heavy, and especially with that final scene, which I did think was really strong. I think Bellamy was very emotional there, but very cutthroat, and it gets into some interesting things of well, did he do it for Clark? I mean, obviously his breaking point was Clark, but it's also so what does that mean? Does that mean he cares about Clark more than he cares about Octavia? But I like that they had him say that my sister, my responsibility, that's his responsibility to save her from herself, the same way that Indra was trying to save Octavia from herself. And, I think it was interesting to use the algae, which we know sent people into a coma. We don't know, that it would kill her. He was risking it, but he was like, it'll probably put her in a coma, and then it will be okay, and she'll wake up in the valley and love me. So it was an interesting move. It was an intense move. And I think that they built up to it pretty well. We've had a bunch of episodes now of Bellamy talking to her, wanting things to change, wanting her to see reason. And here is when his breaking point happens with Clarke, but also with just seeing that she will see no reason. So I thought that it was well structured. I think the algae was a fun use of the algae, and that they set that up so many episodes ago. And I think that the whole thing of the food, and it's like, oh, he's eating human, but actually we're focusing on the food because he's poisoning her. And I think that that was just a really cool sort of turn of events. Like, I saw it happening as it was happening, but it was still really exciting to watch. And I liked that it ended up with a Bellamy versus Octavia as opposed to it having to be Clarke again. I thought that the Murphy and Maury stuff worked well. It's sort of old ground a little bit, but it was really fun watching Murphy and McCreary interact. And then we have, of course, the Abby stuff. And I'm like, Kane and Diyoza are so good, and I like love their chemistry and I love their interactions. And again, it makes it really hard for me to care about what's happening with Abby. But I know I should, but I guess like, you're treating Raven like crap, and I can't forgive that shit. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm being silly about some of the stuff, or do you agree with me on some of these things? And which things do you think that went too far for you, and which characters are you currently rooting for? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode specifically, because I think it was a big turning point for a lot of the characters and a lot of the storylines here in Season 5. So let me know in the comments below. Email us over at the100pod@gmail.com. Tweet us at the100podcast over on the Twitters, and please subscribe to the podcast. Every week we have this audio podcast me and Olga do. It gets into much more into the weeds of all the specifics, and we do recaps and feedback and all that stuff. So please check out that on all fun audio podcasting formats. We have it over on the100podcast.com. We have it on Google Podcasts now. It's a fun time. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and may we meet again.